Good evening, everybody. I guess it's Thursday. I sort of woke up a little late today, but I had ordered some food. It just got here, so now I can go live. I was originally just going to spend the day writing and then maybe read tonight, but there's so much going on anymore that it's very, very difficult to just uh, not address some of it because some of it is so out there and so insane. It needs to be addressed. And I titled this and I put a thumbnail that would sort of go with where I'm going to take some of the conversation. Uh, a lot of the things that, as far as hypotheticals are concerned, those scenarios I made that I created, being that they're all based in reality off of real numbers, facts, figures, stats, capabilities, data points, and even historical and current references and materials, being that it's all related to that, a lot of that is going to come true. Maybe not verbatim, maybe the people, the characters that I put in to stand in as the, leaders of certain types of factions or what have you, be it like the internal conflict or whoever, there'll be different people, but the situation will be largely the same. And there's reasons why it'll be largely the same. And I've gone over a lot of those reasons in my past lives, as well as the actual work itself. And I don't give a lot of shout outs lately to other channels, and the reason for that is because of let's just say past situations. I've been very, very leery to do that. But but I'm going to make an exception, and I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to give a shout out to Ruger for life. You're doing a good thing, my friend. You're doing a good thing. I watched one of his today where he's covering the basics of how the Western elites system is set up, and that's good. That's very good. And I commented on it, because I've told you all about the Eastern and the Western systems and everything, and he clarified. He said, it's just the basics. I said, okay, cool. Well, I'm not against that. I'm not against it at all. I was very respectful. I said, respectfully, there's a lot more to it, but I think I didn't understand the context, maybe, because there is a lot of it, a lot more to these things. There's so many dynamics and aspects of it all, and rabbit holes you can jump down into, and just different people involved, different entities involved, different everything involved. And some things have overlap, some things don't. It's truly a four-dimensional type of a thing as far as like these different elites are concerned, these Eastern and Western elites. And World War III is going to be a clash of both systems. Because if you know your Bible and you know what it says in Revelation and other books, the elites are not truly unified until the beast flatters the 10 victorious kings of World War III, which will be Eastern kings. The West won't even exist. The West isn't really even mentioned in the end times. Well, why would that be? Because, folks, the West has been destroyed by that point. Yes, Babylon's mentioned, but Babylon's mentioned because it gets what? It gets destroyed, okay? And we're stuck with this heinous, evil, wicked, diabolical, Eastern-oriented system until the Battle of Armageddon, the very end of time. So we're going to be stuck with that until the very end of time. So that is why I warn about the evils of the CCP and Xi Jinping and Putin and all of them, because they're evil, and they're going to be even more evil than even these Western elites would have been had their so-called reset plans been allowed to come to pass. But the Great Reset is a sacrifice. It'll be sacrificed to build the true New World Order, which will be an Eastern-centric New World Order. I mean, Listen, even the Western elites tried to borrow things from China for their they borrowed the whole idea of the so-called social credit thing. That was a Chinese invention. That's how evil the Eastern elites are. Like they're the ones coming up with even more diabolical things than even these Western elites could. These pretty hands having, silver spoon in their ass, never worked a day in their lives, Western satanic elites, they're not going to be the world rulers. No, no. Warlords will rule the world. Warlords of the East, of the Eastern nations. Like I said in my other live, I said that, you know, there's two different sets of elites, but one is more arrogant and hubristic and quite frankly more stupid than the other set, and that would be the Western elites. They're arrogant, they're hubristic, but they have no power. They've weakened their own power base, which the Eastern elites have not done. They have not done because they are a separate set of elites. And when God judges a nation or even a region or what have you, he judges it from its highest elites all the way down to its lowest bum. So there you go. I wanted to mention that before I go into all the rest that I intended on talking about. But I'm giving a shout out to Ruger for Life because he does good work on his channel. I like his channel. He, as a person, I think he's a legitimate good person, and I like what he's about. He seems like he's a very genuine, very good person. So I'm going to support him on my channel. And of course, I'm going to support, Jennifer Crocker, my woman. I got to support my woman too. Of course, she's been really doing great work with video editing and everything else. So I wanted to give her some support as well. I share out on a rotating basis a lot of her work in my community tab. So if you all go there, you'll be able to see normally what the latest short videos is she puts out, or maybe some lives that she does, or what have you. So I'm going to just make that known. The thumbnail I picked was woke Miley Cyrus, we'll just say. He might as well be. He's a big old fat sissy tub of lard. I don't know how somebody like that gets to be a general in this day and age, but the picture definitely fits the reality. I'll just put it that way. They basically rule a force that has been totally castrated and totally basically ground down to its nub, insofar as all the purges that have happened, getting rid of all the best people, all the most trained, most capable, most qualified people. They have gotten rid of. They have hollowed out our armed forces, making it to where they're basically no longer a threat to anybody anywhere, including really in an internal conflict. They wouldn't be much to really have to deal with. Insofar as like capabilities go, because a lot of it would also stem from the fact that the good parts of it would be shaved off anyhow. So what I mean by that is that the Guard and Reserves, the people that didn't actually partake in the Mark of the Beast, they have been basically little by little being shaved off. They're being purged. They're talking about getting rid of 260,000 of them. That's roughly the equivalent of 8 core-sized units. Cores, 8 of them. That's roughly 8 entire cores. That's like 30 to 40,000 in strength. They're talking about getting rid of 260,000, and that's actually true. They're really talking about it because they didn't partake in the Mark of the Beast, the abomination. So that is a setup for things in my scenario to take place, like your different factions, like maybe your Free American Army faction. Who knows? They're axing and hollowing out the armed forces. How do you think we're going to fare in a war with a military like that that's led by the likes of, woke Millie and woke, Honore. You remember General Honore, people like him. There's people like him too. All these different fat slobs probably don't even do PT. They probably can't even do a push up, and we got they're basically the stupidest, dumbest, most incapable leaders that I think our military has ever been beneath. And they're leading us and running it into the ground. They're running it into the ground. How did people really think we're going to fare in a war? Look at how we left Afghanistan. Look at how we look from that. Look, and it's not just how we look; it's how it is. It's how it really is. They're talking about wiping out. They're making up fake stories about wiping out certain terrorist leaders and things like that. That's all a bunch of BS. It's like the same exact type of thing that happened when we were leaving Afghanistan, and that gate attack happened at the gate. And then they used a drone to hit some, poor Afghan family that had no ties to whatever happened at the gate, just so they could say that they got the person behind it. I know you all remember that. I can't be the only one that remembered that. That is such a sorry state of our military due to if our military intelligence is in that sorry of a state, to where they have to do something like that, to fabricate a story like that, then what does that say about us as a whole? It's not, because militaries act on intelligence, actionable intel. Actionable intel means intelligence that you can act on, that you can use to, carry out an operation or conduct something. What does that say about our military's, state of its intel if it can't ascertain who is responsible for something simple like that, and they have to go and fabricate an entire situation so they can act like they were able to do something about it. That kind of shit is not going to fly in a war. It's not going to fly in a war. In a real war, that kind of shit ain't going to fly. And if you watched my documentary, my internal conflict documentary series, then you saw how that whole thing developed. It developed much like what we are seeing today. There was a logistical, like your supply chain. There was a logistical food and fuel collapse, an economic and financial, and a social collapse. By social, that means like your whole society, your people, their level of civility, just everything collapsed, okay? Then you had, as a result of that, you had all your factions emerging from the shadows, from all the years of planning, waiting for the power vacuum, waiting for that moment where they could step in to fill a power vacuum. I've been over all of this before with everybody. I think you all understand how that works, especially if you sat through all 5 of those videos. That is about the most realistic rendition of a internal conflict in this country that you'll ever see. The regime, with its woke military, is not powerful enough to occupy this whole nation. They depend heavily on psychological operations to scare people into compliance. They depend heavily on psyops to scare people, to make them believe falsely that they have capabilities that they in fact don't have. They cannot occupy this entire nation ubiquitously. They're not big enough. I went over that with raw numbers and raw facts. If you spaced out the 2.2 million, and that's your Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, Army, Marines, everything. If you spaced out the whole 2.2 million men across this nation is over 3 million square miles large. So to mean if you would space 2.2 million out across each and every square mile, that would only give you 1 man per square mile, and it still wouldn't be enough for there to be every man in every square mile of this country. That's how big this country is. Do you understand what I'm saying with that? You're literally taking 2.2 million and you're spreading them out. And let's just say per square mile, you would have 1 man per square mile. of this country, and this country is larger than 3 million square miles. You would still have over 1 million square miles where there's basically nobody covering it. You would have no people on that on that territory if you spaced out, if you spread out all the people that they have, everybody, and that's all branches, components, everything. They're not big enough to occupy this entire nation. I went over that. They're only big enough to occupy their little woke fortress cities. Now, these are things people can find out on their own. I mean, you all can actually go and find the numbers on your own. You can go and look at how big some of these forces are. I mean, you can go and see how big these, three-letter agencies are. They just don't have the people. They're trying to scare everybody and make them believe a lie that they're a lot stronger than what they really are. They're not as strong as people believe they are. They're really not. They're really not. What I'm saying here is probably going to have really messy audio, and to the point to where there's going to be audio skipping, and you won't be able to hear some of the things I'm probably saying, because this is the type of stuff that they don't want people to hear. They don't want people to hear what I'm saying when I say the truth about these things, because it's a fact. It's a fact. My audio was really bad in the other live I did the other day. The live where I got out the maps and I was showing everything on the map and explaining it in great detail. The maps I made for the invasion scenarios. So and right now I'm not talking specifically about that. Instead I'm talking about the internal scenarios. So the map I showed you where you had the map of the country with the different factional areas. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to get that out and show that again, because it's worth another showing. Because it's very important to understand these things I'm talking about. Okay, and it's best with visual references, because visual references always make things more understandable. Let me show something here. Okay, right here, you got your American map. Okay, let's say you start over here. If you took 2.2 million men and you broke them into men per square mile, 2.2 million men, and you broke it into how many men can you fit in a square mile, you have well over 3 million square miles of territory to cover, okay? So you would break all branches and all components down to 1 man per square mile, because you could only fit 1 man per square mile, and you would still leave a whole swathe of territory, a humongous swathe of territory that couldn't be covered by the forces that they actually have available. Does everybody understand what I'm even saying here? Do people understand? Because here's the deal. They don't have the numbers of people to be able to hold this entire place down. They just don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have it. What they can do is they can occupy their little woke, northwest coast, their little woke coast. They can occupy their, California, of course, obviously. They can occupy their, maybe they would do like they did in my scenario, and they'll try and seize the dam here, because they would want to reroute power a short distance to their little loyalist areas, like was part of my storyline. Of course, they have their little islands like Denver, and their little missile bases and air bases, and their army installations like Hood and Sill and Riley and Polk, and they got woke Chicago, woke Detroit. They got a base here. They got Campbell and Knox. Then they got the whole Northeast up here, and then they got Savannah, and they got Jacksonville, and yeah, that's it. That's all it would be. That's all they could occupy, folks. That's all they could occupy. And the only reason they could even occupy that with the forces they have available, because remember, our armed forces is scattered around the world. And logistically, they are in a sorry-ass state. They're in a sorry-ass state. I mean, even if you watched even somebody like Southern Prepper 1, He would tell you himself that they didn't have the ability to get parts for their vehicles lately. You know that the military's logistics system is in shambles. Well, why would that be? Because in the United States of America, the military is heavily dependent upon civilian what? Civilian production, right? They're dependent upon civilian production. That means if you got like the Lone Star Army ammunition plant up here in like the Texarkana area, northeast Texas, let's say that they can't get brass casings to produce ammo. You know, that plant is a military ammunition plant. They can't get brass casings, then guess what? They're not going to be able to make rounds. They're not going to be able to make rounds, you know? Or let's say that, you got your places up here in Norfolk, you got your shipyards or whatever, they can't get the shipyards, they can't get their electronic components from China because remember, it's a lowest bidder sort of thing. So they're going to go with Chinese electronic components a lot of times instead of Taiwanese or other, more friendly areas they could source their parts from. Let's say they can't get, because China cut off trade. So now they can't complete ships in Norfolk because they can't get all the parts they need from China. Okay? Or they can't get the brass to make ammo at the Army ammunition plant, or they can't refurbish vehicles in Texarkana because they have the Red River Army Depot, or whatever the case. Remember, America has economically and financially shrunk to puny levels. Puny levels. Our GDP has shrunk to puny levels compared to what it once was. It has. We are in dire straits, everybody. We are in dire straits. And this is my color-coded map for the different factions. You know what? Had I been able to, had there been more colors of colored pencils I could have used for the color coding, I would have had more than 10 factions here. I would have put easily more than 10 factions. I probably would have put like 15 in here, including the neutral areas. Where communities just band together and they don't want to take no sides in the conflict. Oh yeah, finally I can see the chat. Hey Jennifer, hey love. Yeah, wife fam, it's no problem. I need to show people how these things work. And hey Armored Saint, it's great to see you too, man. I'm always happy to see you because I know you know exactly what I'm talking about here. But yeah, these things are very real. This is real shit. I don't just, make this shit up. I mean, I concoct it off of reality, but I'm not just making it up out of the blue. I base all of this on something. Syria was my template for how I made this entire thing. This is Syrian internal conflict was my template for this entire situation. What happened in Syria, plus other modern internal conflicts, woven together, sprinkled in like seasoning on your steak, that is what made this what it was. So if people think that can't happen here, or it won't happen here, rather, that's a better way of putting it. If people think that that's not going to happen here, man, you all got another thing coming. I'm telling you. The armed forces is at a point where its morale, that means how much it gives a shit about its career, its job, whatever, its whole entire situation, its morale is at an all-time low, okay? It's at an all-time low. They're axing people, they're purging people, they're getting rid of the best people, and they're leaving the worst people in there. They're changing everything about it, and people still think that we have a chance against the most powerful nation the world has ever known and seen up to this point, Communist China, of all nations? What in the actual shit is going on when the Red Chinese have become the superpower of the world? Seriously. What in the actual shit is going on? It makes my blood boil that America has stooped and shrunk to the level it has, while China has been able to grow to the level it has, producing over 1 billion tons of steel annually, with the most military factories on the whole earth of any nation, well in excess of 500 major, humongous plants, the size of what the Lima, Ohio tank plant would be. You know, that's a large plant, but China has well in excess of 500 of those types of plants in that size. They're not all tank factories, obviously, but they're humongous plants that are all the size of the Lima plant or bigger for the manufacture of armored vehicles, arms, tanks, whether the armored vehicles are APCs, IFVs, MRAPs, trucks, armored trucks, whatever. Aircraft factory. They have their shipyards. They have 1,200 shipyards. And they all can be retooled at a moment's notice to all produce military ships as per the civil military fusion policy, because they're set up that way. Same with the automotive and bus plants that China has. They can add extra production capacity to the Chinese war production. Not that they need it. They don't need it because their doctrines have troops all over this whole map. And they're going to emerge, like in my invasion scenario, and crush this whole place. They're going to pound it into the dust. They're going to come up from Mexico. They're going to come down from Canada. There's ships from Canada, from Bahamas, from Cuba, from, coasts of Mexico and Canada. They're going to beach land. They're going to hit us from everywhere. They're going to drop paratroopers wherever they deem they're needing to be dropped. They're going to do all of that to us. This war that's coming is going to be so fast. It's going to be so fast. It's going to make people's heads spin. People are going to stand slack-jawed in the streets looking stupid because they're not even going to understand how the hell foreign troops ended up inside our country. Because they don't want to listen to people that have been trying to warn them for years that this has been happening. Because they don't want to listen. Because of pride, because of arrogance, because of whatever. We're trying to warn these people of the danger, of the real and present danger. We're trying to warn them, but they don't want to listen. They don't want to listen to us. Even when we bring the facts, raw facts, figures, capabilities, data points, numbers. We even connect the dots for them to make these bigger pictures of everything. Oh, and Blue Eyes, I see you in there. It's great to see you. Yeah, that video you sent me, it actually lines up perfectly. That you gave to Jen to give to me, it lines up perfectly with everything I've been saying. I mean, sure, that guy's only in Mexico, and he only sees a little bit of what's been going on in Mexico, personally, but it lines up with everything I've been researching that's been going on here, inside of here, that's going on out here. It lines up with all of it. So thank you, Blue Eyes. Thank you. And it's all true. They're going to overrun us from so many directions. I've showed you all the Chinese troops on Salt Spring Island. They're out there doing their PT road march in uniform, like we used to do in our Army days back in the day when we still did PT. I bet they don't even have a PT program anymore where people actually exercise every morning before they go to work for the day. I bet they don't even have that anymore. I wouldn't even be surprised at this point. Look at the caliber of people that they're trying to attract. You look at their recruiting advertisements. That's not a be-all, end-all thing, but it is indicative of the type of people that they're looking for. They're looking for the armchair types of, video gamers and Call of Duty type of people that they're looking for the wokesters. They don't want real gung-ho, professional, alpha male type of, troops. They want wokesters and gamers And people that don't know how to fight, people when the going gets tough, they're going to drop their weapons and run. They're going to drop their weapons and run. That's who they're trying to recruit anymore. You know? So, yes, and Blue Eyes, yes, thank you for that video. I did actually, I wanted to tell you that I did put that video in playlists. And that guy is literally in Mexico showing people roads that the Chi-Coms built for when their invasion prongs come up in here. And he even mentions the Russians that are down there too, plus their other allies, like I've mentioned, like the Iranians and Pakistanis. They're there too. They're there too. They're all inside as Trojan horse shock forces, and they're in Canada. And they're in Canada. And they're in Canada. And he even in that video, and this is a Mexican dude, okay? This is a guy in Mexico, all right? He even says that he expects America is probably going to have an internal conflict. He even said that. Well, what do you know? What is this? What is this map about here? What is this map about? It is about a second American civil conflict, Syrian style, meaning with factions. Factions. Yeah, Blue Eyes. Yeah, he was on point. I don't think he realizes, though, even the full extent of how much forces are involved in such an undertaking, but he does have great intel because he's right there on the ground collecting it. But I think he's only seeing a small part of it. I think this whole thing involves multiple nations. It involves multiple nations. But what he is seeing in Mexico is on point. It's on point. But I don't even think he knows how many forces are really there, though. I think he's seen some of it, but I think that there's more. There's a lot more forces there. Indications are that there are a lot more forces there. It's beyond the thousands. I would say it is comfortably in the millions, because remember, they're going to want to disguise their buildups as much as they can. Like this, okay, like for instance, in the video that she sent me, there's an island where they said they're building a hotel, but it's really like a Chi-Com and Russian base where they have other allies there too, but that's only one spot. That's only one spot, and it's disguised as a hotel. There would be thousands of such types of places. Mexico would have at least several million foreign troops. It would. It's just like Canada, too. Remember, this would be the largest invasion in all of human history. They're not going to half-ass anything. They're not going to half-ass anything. They're going to go all the way, and they're going to smash this place as quick as they can. As quick as they can. So in those scenarios I created for everybody, just understand that this map here, where it shows the areas of regime control, that's about as close to the reality as you're ever going to see, with all the rest of it falling apart. It's all going to go to complete and total shit. So I wanted to address that. I'm going to actually go and get more maps. Hold on a second. Let me go get my other maps. Oh boy. How's everybody doing tonight? Let me see who all's in here. Hey, Brogan, Lotus, and Ann, and YFM, and let's see who else. Oh man. Hold on, y'all. I gotta get these out. Yeah. All right. Got a whole bunch of maps that we can look at together here. Now, of course, you know, you got the situation that I made here with the, with the Florida. You got the Florida map here. And you got your Chi-Com Marines, your Cuban Revolutionary Army divisions landing. Here's one here, here's one here. You got a Cuban Revolutionary Army division beginning as a Trojan unit inside the Miami-Dade area. You got the Chi-Com Marines landing to capture this base that's on Key West, or whichever Florida key this was. I can't even remember. I put a circle here because there is a base there. It's either like a naval or a air installation. I can go find out, but while I'm recording, I can't. I forgot which one it was. But you see how I have all this here. How they have this big Trojan force where I did the entire battle campaign of Jacksonville, because all the installations, I showed you exactly how they would take over a large city like this, and this is in Florida. There was a lot of forces involved in this submap, okay? This is just one region, one small region, one region. This is only one small region. The reason I'm showing you guys this is because I'm trying to show you the extent of how humongous such an undertaking would really realistically need to be. It would need to be gigantic, just because of the sheer land mass involved that they would have to be taking over. The sheer land involved. You would have armadas of ships all up and down the east and west coast, even here in the Gulf, like so. You would have, here's the Cap City. You see in the story, this 31st Group Army, all of these forces are 31st Group Army. And there's even one division of it, the 86th Motorized Infantry Division, which is off to the east, because it's actually an amphibious division, and they were capturing places like Anniston, Maryland, and other areas, and they were crossing into the Delmarva Peninsula. So the 31st was active all over that area. Then you had the Pakistani Lancers Regiment coming up from the southwest. You had 3 H-6K heavy bombers coming over and carpet munitioning the whole city here. You had the JH-7s coming in to provide close-in air support for all of these elements of the 92nd Infantry Division that belongs to the 31st Group Army. These all little battalion elements here are all part of the 92nd, which is part of the parent unit, the 31st Group Army. This was the place, this is Fort Meade right here. In the story, they left the Pentagon. They went up the highway, and they were on their way back to Meade when all the lights went out. Everything went out. I think it's nice to see these visuals, so that way when you're listening to the audiobook, you can sort of get an idea of what I'm talking about in the book a lot better when you can see a visual of it. You can also see the same visuals when you actually go back and watch my 96-hour invasion documentary playlist here. You also had the Belarusians. You had some of their battalions belonging to their landing forces that landed on the Virginia coast. You have them coming up in here too to help with the seizure of the city. Then the Russians are coming up because they're on their way to Dietrich to capture and Anniston to capture the chemical and bioweapons programs. So you had all of that going on. You had the Richmond battle, which was a really big battle too. See, down here in Richmond, you had the Russian 58th Combined Arms Army, who was primarily tasked with capturing Richmond and Petersburg and Chester here, all up and down the highway, all up and down I-95. You had the Chinese, you had them sending in a fighter squadron of J-20 stealth fighters to provide air cover, whether that be air superiority or whether that be limited ground strike missions, which they helped because there was no American air power to take down. So they did that. But you had this, this wasn't even the entire Russian 58th Combined Arms Army, because the rest of it was further out to the west, and they were taking Lynchburg and other areas. But this was a big part of it. They were very, very artillery and armor heavy. So they had a lot of armor and artillery forces at this particular battle at Richmond. Then, of course, You had in that same Virginia, Maryland, Southern Maryland campaign, you had the Norfolk battle. And that was a big battle because you had Chi-Com Marines of the People's Liberation Army Navy. You had them landing in both Norfolk and also up here in Hampton and Newport to seize the city, combined with the Trojan forces that were here, which belonged to the PAP. The People's Armed Police had a light armored division here as a Trojan unit that materialized right here in the southeast corner of Virginia. And combined, they all proceeded to capture this entire area, including Williamsburg up here. And then you had the Belarusians landing a little further off the map. They were landing a little bit to the north. Do you all see how big of an undertaking this would have been? You had all these aircraft. You had these fighters and tactical fighter bombers and strategic bombers coming in. Chinese fighters too, and just Russian and Chinese aircraft, ships, everything. Do you see how big of an undertaking this would be? Like, these are just individual battles here. These aren't even like the campaign maps. These are just battle maps, you know, right here. So you got all that going on, and then you got, seeing the Florida map here, you had here's the Jacksonville battle in the Florida map. You got the little Outer Banks right here. You had a Russian bomber squadron of 8 heavy strategic bombers, Tu-22Ms. You had them coming in to strike various targets and carpet munition the place. You even had a MiG-29K squadron of fighters. You had them coming in too. You had Chi-Com elements on the ground. It was a humongous battle because you had the entire 80th Group Army. So they were capturing this major city, which was also in my internal conflict campaign, if you remember that. There was a Battle of Jacksonville in the internal conflict as well, but it was a little different. It was a different map, but it was still the same city, same everything. Other than the fact that it was foreign invasion, it was just different factions duking it out. It was Florida against the regime, plus the army of the Southeast was up here, where they came down from the north. So you had all that, you know, and then you, of course, the map, the campaign map I never made was this map right here, the Texas one, because it would have been so gargantuan, because it literally involved well in excess of 1.5 million forces. I would have had to have done like 1 billion battle maps for this thing, because this thing was huge. This thing was huge. So all I ever did was did a community post and used it as a visual reference for my split up the middle typed out story and my other story, which was the first story, which was the story called Realistic Preparedness, where the Broken Bow thing happened. So, you know, knowing what people know about how big all of this was, you know, oh, and one more. And the Northwest too. You see now how big all of this is. How humongous such an undertaking would be. There's so many different places they would have to invade from, inside and outside and around. I'm just showing these as examples of the sheer scale and scope of such a humongous undertaking. It would be like beyond, you know, there's no word for the huge size of it. No word whatsoever at all. I can't think of one, honestly. I can't, you know. So let me see what everybody's saying, because I want to sort of see what people think, because, you know, this whole thing with Taiwan was also something I was going to go over too. Hey, MB, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Kathy too. Good to see all y'all. Yeah, the World Economic Forum, they're really the Western Economic Forum. They don't run China, they don't run Russia, they don't run anything but the West. They don't run anything but the West. See, people have this misconception that the Western elites run the whole world, but that's not even true. That's like one of the most asinine things I've ever heard in my life. Because I've showed mountains and mountains and mountains of proof that that's not in fact the case. That's actually a wrong way to look at it. See, the Western elites are going to be caught up, in God's judgment, because God is going to allow Satan to eat his own. The world that's coming will be an Eastern-centric world. It'll be an Eastern-centric world because the West is over. The West is no longer... See, the Western elites only run the West. That's their whole power base. They've castrated and neutered their own power base because in their mind, they're going to do this reset, right? They're going to do this great reset, and they're going to destroy themselves and rebuild themselves. But they have no viable alternative. They have no viable replacement. They can make all the plans they want, but their plans are going to fail, and they're going to fail miserably because there's other plans that are also occurring, that are going to knock the entire Great Reset thing out of its axis. It's going to be, it's already wobbling. It's probably going to never, work out even remotely close to what they want it to, because when you have your Syrian-style internal conflict, that's when they're going to begin to really lose their grip on everything, because they cannot control a nation of some 340 million people. That's insane. That's asinine. Even Bashar al-Assad couldn't even control tiny Syria. He had to have help from all kinds of powerful allies. But guess what? America's alienated, well, I should say its regime has alienated so much of the world. It ain't going to have no help when there's an internal conflict. In fact, China and Russia are probably going to do their best to destabilize us even more, like they did in my internal conflict. I literally gave everybody the template of exactly how it would happen. Maybe the factions will have different names and there'll be different things, but it's all really the same concepts. It's the same concepts. There's going to be a Syrian-style factional internal conflict. The nation's going to, shatter into all kinds of different pieces of it as a result of it. They're never going to have their Great Reset because we're going to get invaded by the Eastern elites who rule China and Russia and their allies. They're going to come in and invade us, and China's going to colonize us, and it's going to be new China. The Western elites will be taken off, and they'll be humiliated. There will be no Western world order. It'll be a Eastern-centric world order. The Bible even, corroborates that, because the Bible talks about the 10 kings, and they will be 10 Eastern victorious kings who the beast is going to flatter. Because why? Because he obtains his kingdom through flattery, and he's going to flatter them, and they're going to give their power to the beast, reign with him for 1 hour. That's what it says in Revelation. And all my research has corroborated the Bible, and the Bible has corroborated my research. It's a mutual type of thing. That's what my whole objective is on this channel. I want my research to back up the Bible, and I want the Bible to mutually back up my research, which it is. So, saying all that to say this is that there is going to be no Western anything. The West is going to be destroyed by the elites of the East, who are not part of the Western system. They've done business with the West, but they're not part of the Western system, and it's self-evident. You can even go into all my past work where I've diligently broken all of that down and explained the differences. I've explained the differences in great, vast details. People can believe whatever they want, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's right, because they don't have anything solid by which they can back up their beliefs. And I'm trying to give them solid evidence that show that what I'm explaining is the facts. It's the facts. I give evidence that show that it's a fact. You could go look at all my past lives. A real good one to look at on that is the end of the West, not the world. And also the sun setting on the west, not the world. Go look at Meet the Quota. That's another really good one. Go look at the impromptu one. Not the first one you see, but if you keep scrolling, you're going to see one with the Russian MiG-41 schematic-looking picture. Click on that. Watch that. There's really good past lives where I've broken all of it down. They're like two competing mafia families. Only one is more arrogant and stupid and ignorant than the other. And the other one is a more careful planner, a chess player, one that is austere-minded, and that's the elites of the East. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just the facts, you know. I'm not pro-West or East. I just happen to live in the West. I don't want this country to be destroyed, but it's going to be destroyed. I have a son. I have family. Do you think I want to see war that I've experienced like in Iraq that's going to be 50 times worse than that? Do you think I want to see that come here? Shit, no, I don't want to see that shit come here, man. I don't, but it is. Whether I freaking like it or not, it's coming home to roost. And you all better get ready for that. There's no time, for any type of pettiness, any type of dumb shit. People have better get their lives in line because China is going to rip the West a new asshole with Russia. And there will be an Eastern dominated, centric one world order, whether we like it or not. The Western mind cannot comprehend that. Even the Western truther's mind cannot comprehend that. But I'm telling you that that's how it's going to be. And I've backed it up with plenty of examples of raw facts. Go watch my past work. I lay it all out for you. I make it easy for you to understand. Please, we are going to be destroyed. We will not be here. There's not going to be a great reset here. There's only going to be the Flintstones in our future, not the Jetsons. It's not going to be the Jetsons here. It's going to be the Flintstones. This place is going to be war-torn and destroyed from internal conflict and from foreign invasion. Okay? That's the premise of everything I do, is to show you the real threats, the real dangers that are coming here, so that you all can get ready. Get ready. Get armor. Prepare for a war like you would prepare for other emergencies. Get protective gear and equipment that you would need to, improve your survival odds in a war situation. I've had subscribers in the past tell me that they've gotten helmets thanks to me, thanks to where I've told them to go. They've gotten armor, they've gotten plate carriers. Good for them. I hope everybody does that because that's the type of shit that people need to be doing. Because the type of shit that's coming here is going to be lots of projectiles flying around in the air, including shrapnel. There's going to be a lot of that type of shit flying around in the air. And you're going to want something to protect your head and to protect your vital organs. Get body armor. Get helmets. Get firearms and ammunition. While you still can. It would behoove you because this is all coming to an end. This merry-go-round, this Disneyland, this Western world we've lived in, it's all coming to an end, all right? There's not going to be no great reset. There's not going to be no high-tech future here. It's going to be the Flintstones. All roads lead to the Flintstones' future, okay? I've been trying to explain this forever, and I still see people just, worrying about all the wrong things, So, yeah, there's, yeah, King Tuna, yeah. People like Millie are definitely controlled by the bagels. They're definitely controlled by the bagels. I like your comment there. That's funny. Yes, King Tuna, it will be a Mad Max Chi-Com horror movie. I hate it, but, that's the way it's going to be. Everybody better get ready for it. All the stuff about Taiwan and China, look, a lot of that shit is a bunch of bullshit hype, okay? Go watch the live I did. Please go watch the live I did about that. It's the one where I said, it was the one where I'm wearing the green shirt under my armor and I have the, I'm holding my rifle. Go watch that. I did it the other day where I really break that whole thing down. Look, the only way anything's going to happen is if China's ready for it to happen. Like, meaning if their troops are all on their jump-off points, their logistics are all lined up, everything's ready to go all around the world, because this is going to be a worldwide thing. Look, if we get in a war with China, there's going to be fighting not just here at home, but there's going to be fighting around the world with them. There's going to be fighting in Europe because of all the Chi-Com troops that they've built up in Serbia and other areas. With the Russians there. There's going to be fighting going on in Africa because the Chinese and Russians have troops in Africa, especially China. but the Russians are now in Mali, the country called Mali, Mali. The Chinese are all over Africa, especially they're really heavy in Angola and Djibouti and Ethiopia and Eritrea. The Chicoms are heavy in Africa and South Africa too, Botswana. The Chicoms are all over the place, all right? They are going to be, the moment we get into anything with China, it is going to be a worldwide war because they have troops all over the world. They have troops in the Middle East too, in Iran, and also I hear they're making deals with Saudi to put troops there while they're doing their petro-yuan renminbi. Same with Russia. Saudi is being pulled into the Eurasian camp. BRICS Plus is the direct competitor of the Western Economic Forum, BRICS Plus, or the Belt and Road, or whatever. They're all in competition with one another. They're two different things. They're two different entities. The West does not control the Eastern world, and the East doesn't control the West yet, not until they take it over. That's why the two rival systems are going to have a world war. And after the East defeats the West, the 10 kings, the 10 major kings of the Eastern Coalition, will be wooed and flattered by the beast to give him their power, because they're going to have all the power. They're going to have the armies, the finances, and everything. They'll have all the hard and soft power. So the beast is going to be a cunning diplomat and go woo all of them to give their power to him. You know, he's going to convince them that, hey, you know, if you all just gave your power to me, you know, I could start to fix all these problems, you know, that this war created for everybody, and all the famine that exists now, and all the death and all the disease and all the destruction from the war. You know, what do you think the ghost cities are for around the world? That's for the survivors of World War III to be herded into and marked, and that'll become their prison for the rest of their short, miserable lives. They will be living in the ghost cities. The ghost cities. And that's a very important thing I've covered in the past that they really didn't like me covering. Because they did give me a strike for one video that was about the ghost cities and the mark of the beast, and they got rid of the video. So that's a really touchy subject, evidently. But China, they control a lot of the world's ghost cities. They control a lot of the world's ghost cities. But there's also ghost cities in Angola that China built. China built much of the world's ghost cities. Who is like unto the beast, and who can make war with him? The dragon gave his power unto the beast. The dragon. China, the dragon. Satan, the dragon. China, the dragon. China is the tangible representation of that prophecy, whereas Satan is the spiritual representation of that prophecy. China is a secular, humanist, godless, evil, despotic police state regime ruled by a man who thinks himself a god. He's probably a principality. He may even be Satan incarnate. Who knows? But he rules right now what is the most powerful nation the world has ever known. Ever. So, who is like unto the beast, and who can make war with him? And the dragon gave his power unto the beast. Well, Satan, if Xi Jinping isn't Satan, when he's just some principality, or who's to say that Satan wouldn't enter into Xi Jinping for the purposes of cooperating with his son, the beast, to say, okay, I'll back you, you know? I mean, who's to say? You know, but I believe that prophecy, and I believe China is a big part of that prophecy. They are the most powerful superpower the world has ever known. In sheer industrial scope and scale, the amount of gold they have, are you crazy? People saying China's going broke. Are you freaking out of your mind? Are you insane? They have more gold than any nation on the earth. They have the biggest gold holdings in the entire world. They have the biggest industrial base the world has ever could even fathom or know. The amount of steel they produce, the amount of military armaments factories, the amount of automotive and bus factories, the amount of chemical plants, the amount of just everything they have, pharmaceutical plants, everything. They are the biggest industrial behemoth the world has ever known. They are the world superpower in military terms as well. The technology they have is phenomenal. It's insane. They lead the world in AI, in creating miniature artificial stars. They lead the world in hypersonics, along with Russia too. They lead the world in electronic warfare, along with also Russia too. Let's see, China, they have directed energy weapons. They have all kinds of things. They have things that we've never even seen or heard of. They can cloak their hypersonic missiles. They can do all kinds of different things. China is the biggest, most powerful nation the world has ever known in military, economic, industrial. I mean, I'm talking in real numbers, real terms. A lot of people don't like that. I don't like that, but it's the reality. It's the reality. Reality has no bias. Reality has no bias. People that have a problem with what I'm saying, get over that shit. I had to get over it. You're going to have to get over it too. Or else you're going to be one of those people standing there slack-jawed watching as Chi-Com troops come rolling down your street. Believe it, because it's going to happen. Whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. They are the world superpower in real terms and have been for at least the past 5 years. Even the Pentagon's own supercomputers had us losing every single solitary war simulation to China for at least the last 5 years as well. And that was about the time that all their major military plants were wrapping up as far as additional plants that were being constructed. They have hundreds, plural, of gigantic armaments production plants. We have barely over a dozen, with 4 military shipyards, dedicated military shipyards. And we're not set up to retool automotive or other factories because it ain't World War II and shit has changed. We don't have the precision tools. We don't have the equipment to where we're set up to do that. Guess who makes much of that equipment? China does. Guess who's cut off a lot of trade with us? China has. We are about to be destroyed, folks. Whether we like it or not, you better get your ass ready. You better get your armor. You better get your firearms. You better be ready to defend yourself and your family, especially if you're a man, if you're an able-bodied man. If you don't do that, you're a worthless excuse of a man. Worthless. And you ain't no real Christian if you can't defend your own family and yourself, if you're going to just be a doormat for evil. So you better stand up. You better become a moralist and identify what evil is, and you better stand against it. You better stand against it. The times we're in are not normal times, folks. Y'all better get a grip on y'all selves. You better recognize the realities we face. And a lot of this Taiwan and Nancy Pelosi stuff is all a bunch of bullshit. It's all a bunch of hype. You know, like I said in my other video, you know, there's only 3 possibilities really that could occur. You know, maybe a few more, but they're nothing. Look, they're only going to act if they're ready to act. Their plans have been set in the works for decades. Decades. Are people that ridiculous as to think that they're going to derail their own plans over some old wench, some old hag that's likely on their payroll anyway? Please, man, please, please, get a grip. This stuff is crazy, man. Anymore, all these hype stories that come out are crazy. You know, some people call it intel. I call it a lot of, you know, mis and disinfo. You got to really do your research, folks. I'm not knocking nobody personally. Look, I've got friends that really like dig into intel and everything, and that's fine and good, but you got to corroborate it with something. You got to corroborate it with something because most of it is put out by MSM or others to deliberately deceive people or to mislead people at best. Yeah, sure, you know, there might be some truth in there, but you got to dig out the truth. Like my friend Ken says, chew up the meat and spit out the bones, because there's a lot of bones in a lot of the info that comes out on any given day. Any given day. I've tried to give people the tools and help them to understand how to, you know, look at some of this stuff and dig through some of this stuff with templates and everything, with templates on how to do it. And it's up to people to do it. Be leery of MSM hype that filters its way into the alt media through these pogo channels. pogo channels, privately owned, government-operated channels, like a certain one that some friends of mine are exposing, and I'm very glad they have, because this individual is doing some pretty dirty things, man. I've watched a whole marathon about it, and it's really dirty, some of the stuff that's being done, and it's being done because there's people that trust some of these big, like real big channels. There's people that trust them, and they're being trapped in something that they don't even understand what they're being trapped into, and it's really worrisome. I've always spoken against the Chi-Com 50-cent army and the pogo garbage. You all remember 2 years ago, I talked about David Goldberg and all that other stuff years ago. I just haven't touched it in a while, but you know what? That's all still relevant today. Today. Folks, be careful who you're listening to. Anybody that just blows up overnight and becomes this huge, gigantic, YouTube whatever overnight, there's something wrong with that, folks. There's something seriously wrong with that shit. Y'all better start doing your digging, man. Do your digging. Do your due diligence and do your research. Do your research. You know me, I don't like to name drop, but I think you all know what humongous channel I'm talking about. It's a huge, they have two channels, I should say. They're big. They're very big. I'm talking like over 150,000 big. It's huge. Be careful who you trust and listen to. Be careful. Be careful. I don't like seeing good people get hurt. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying now. I don't like to see good people get hurt. I really don't. Anytime there's money involved in anything, money is the root of all evil. Be very careful. Be very careful. Be very careful. I love you all. I hope this has been a good live. And let me talk to everybody before I go, because this, I really got a little bit, I put my heart into what I was talking about right there at the very end. I just want to see where everybody is with everything. Yes, COINTELPRO. Speaking of COINTELPRO, people really have dug into the COINTELPRO programs, both in good ways where they expose them, but also in bad ways where they become victims of COINTELPRO programs like Pogo, or like the Chinese 50-cent army who attacks me from time to time because they hate me. Because Chi-Coms sit on the board of every major American corporation and institution to subvert it and corrupt it and destroy it and weaponize it against us, including YouTube. Why do you think my channel has hovered around the same amount for over a year? Hasn't grown, won't grow past 3,000. They hate me, and they attack me on a regular basis. They really are a headache for me. They really are a headache for me. So, yeah, there's a lot of COINTELPRO programs. COINTELPRO. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it. There's Chinese ones, Russian ones, American ones, even ones done by private companies like Big Pharmacia. I've been attacked by their shills before, too, when I was really speaking out over a year ago against the beast mark. Let's see. Yeah, good to see you too, Ann, and Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes, you're awesome. You've always been there. You've read my stories. I've seen you in the comments in my stories in my community tab. You've been with me a long time. You know the stuff I'm telling people is real. Hell, that video you sent me from that Mexican journalist, he knows it's real. I mean, he's only down there seeing what's in Mexico, but he knows the extent of it. He knows that they're doing this, that they're setting up to invade the United States. The West is over. The West is over. Right under all our noses. It's over. Mind Blown Watcher, Galatians, YFAM, welcome y'all. I'm glad to see you all here too. Lowrider, good to see you. Yeah, that stuff, the funky box garbage, that's all a result of those who took the mark of the beast, okay? They're the ones suffering from all of that. I wouldn't even worry about it. If you didn't take the mark, you ain't got nothing to worry about, my brother. You're good, man. You're good. You're in good shape. You're in good shape. What's up, Jeffrey? Yeah, I don't believe in that either, Jeffrey. I don't believe in that mythology there. It is a mythology. It's not going to happen like people think. Uh, who else? Yeah, MB. The Chinese have the most advanced AI in the world, and it's programmed to be undyingly loyal to the CCP and Xi Jinping. So that's kind of creepy. That also, is another reason, that I believe that prophecy fits China as much as it does Satan about the dragon. China is the burgeoning world superpower. They have all this stuff. They're leading the world in like basically every major category. So it's really concerning to me, and that's why I speak out against them. One day I'll probably get clipped for it. They'll clip me for it. They'll straight up probably, wipe me out. If you all read my typed out stories, do you remember when they went after the anti-CCP journalist and they took him out in a spec ops mission and they did all that type of stuff? That's probably what they're going to try and do to me. Yeah, I'll fight the good fight. I'll try and defend myself, but they're going to clip me for speaking out. They're going to clip me. And that's why I have no respect anymore for people like a certain guy. I'm not going to name drop, but his last name rhymes with Modges. You knew the risks before you get into the truth-telling game. So if you're going to go from covering fire topics, hardball topics, to softball, nothing topics, because you're scared for your life, then get off the air. Get off the air. You knew the risks. You knew the dangers when you got involved in the truth-telling business. You can't be scared to lose your life for telling the truth. That's a bunch of bullshit. Anybody that does that is a cuckold and a weakling. You better be ready to defend yourself at a moment's notice. No excuses. No excuses. So, they only pick on the weak. They only ever pick on the weak. You show no fear, they ain't gonna mess with you. And that ain't no lie. That ain't no lie right there. You better be able to man up and protect yourself and family. You better mean it. But it was good talking to everybody. Things are getting serious. They're getting very serious. I'm going to continue my audio book. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the tail end of this got really serious. The tail end of my live here, it got very serious. It got very, very serious. I hope people watch the entire thing from beginning to end. It was a very, very good live, but yeah, hey Priscilla. Yeah, they don't want the truth known, but you know what? Yeah, it lags and hey Bang Bang, you're good. Yeah, it lags. Like I told people earlier that it was going to do that. Do you remember when I said they're probably going to, mess with my audio because of what I've been saying that they don't like in this whole stream? They're going to mess with my audio. They hate me. They're going to clip me one day. But I'm going to defend myself. I will defend myself. And if they're going to remove me from this world, then I'm not going to be the only one they remove. Inadvertently, I'm going to be bringing some people with me too, if they try that type of shit. If I'm attacked, because I believe in self-defense. Regardless, I don't give a shit who I'm attacked by. I believe in self-defense. If somebody attacks me, I have the moral high ground because I'm the defender. I didn't go after anybody. So therefore, if somebody attacks me, they're the ones who are in the wrong, and it's always going to be that way. They can never claim that they have the moral high ground, no matter what type of bullshit they try to say they did it for or whatever. They can never claim moral high ground if they're the attacker, if they're the aggressor. Because I've done nothing wrong to nobody. Nobody. So, this was a very serious live. Yes, the tone of this got really serious towards the end. I hope people heard at least most of what I said. I know I told you all that they would mess with my audio. I wasn't kidding about that. I wasn't joking about that. But I love everybody. Thank you all for coming. Y'all be blessed. I'm glad you made it, Jennifer, my dear. Y'all take care. Oh, it was good to see you too, Brogan, and Bang Bang, and Lotus, and Kathy, Jeffrey, Blue Eyes, COINTELPRO, King Tuna. You say some funny stuff, King Tuna, but I agree with some of it. Hot Chocolate. Good to see you, Hot Chocolate. Joe and YFam. Johnny Utah. And yeah, Johnny Utah, you're right. It's empty. It's empty. Fort Knox is empty. We ain't got nothing for gold. The rest of it, under the W to the T to the C in 2001. Yeah, the rest of that gold, it's stolen. It's in Europe now with the Western elites. But that's okay. That's okay, because the Chinese and Russians are going to get all their gold. They're going to when they take down these Western elites, they're going to take everything they have. It's like, nah, homie, you're going to be our slave, and we're going to take your wealth too. Biatch. That's going to be what the Chinese and Russians say to the likes of the, Rothschilds and, all their ilk. They're going to take their money and make them slaves. That's exactly what's going to happen, too. They're going to be Xi Jinping's footstool in his red gold throne that I've shown you all in that other thumbnail in the Red Dragon live I did. That's another really good live to go watch about China, the Red Dragon. Meet the Quota, the Red Dragon. There's a few really good ones about China that I really suggest people go watch. The End of the West, Not the World. They're all really good lives. But you all be blessed. I love you all.